Brazil, as of this year, 2025, April of this year, did start requiring that everybody, all ages, have to have a visa to enter the country. And so, we'll kind of talk through this process. We're a whole year into this now and have a good handle on what this is like. Um, we do have confidence now that their government site, that the VFS Global, it is a fairly efficient way for a person to go ahead and get their visa. Any U.S. citizen can apply online, as it says there, for $81. And the great thing is it is a 10-year visa. In the old days, it was 2-year visa. You had to do this every 2 years, but now you get your visa and it'll be good for 10 years. So any adults, we've not had a lot of trouble with adults getting their visas. Probably the biggest issue we have is with the pictures, the photographs, and we certainly will help and talk through this, with any teams that need help. Some teams like to do their visas, as a team. They'll get together and do all their visa applications. Others, will kind of do it on their own. But certainly you can't apply for your visa until you have your passport. So if you don't have your passport, that's the first step. But once a person has a passport, they can apply for the visa at any time. And so we would encourage uh, you as a team member to do that and not delay that, just so it's peace of mind. So you're not worrying about it last minute. But for minors who apply for their visa, there is some extra hurdles for them to clear, some extra paperwork. And so for minors, it probably would be a good idea to use a third-party site. We have a third-party company that we use for visas. And anybody can use this third-party site. It's one of the benefits of the third-party service is they are a little bit easier to get in touch with, a little bit easier to communicate and get feedback from if there seems to be a delay in your visa, if there's a problem with it getting processed. And so for minors, probably would recommend that. It's not necessary, but probably recommend that you use that third party site, and you can get a discount. So it's an additional $90, plus that 81. So you're talking about 171, but there is a 20% discount, with an Amazon outreach discount link that we can provide for you. But this visa is necessary for everybody. We had a handful of people last year. Again, with it being new in 2025, we had a handful of people last year who didn't get to go on their trips, either because they waited too long to apply, or I think there was a case where an individual didn't know they needed their visa. And so you will have to have that visa, whatever your travel itinerary is. That last flight before you enter into the country of Brazil, they will want to see your visa, wherever that flight's originating from. And so, the eVisa link, we have all this information again under our resources tab. So you can find that if you go directly to our website, go to resources, or if you go to manage missions, you'll see where it says resources, and they'll take you again to our website. And so what you're going to need to apply for your visa, certainly we encourage you to have all this information. When you sit down to apply for your visa, make sure you have your passport. As I said, that needs to be a valid passport. The government site, sometimes will ask for your flight itinerary. If you don't have that yet, that's okay. You can scan in your passport and use that twice. And typically that will pass through. I mentioned the photo a little bit earlier. Again, this is probably where the most complications come from. What we have found on the passport photo is the wider the frame, like the more area around your head and face there is, the more you can crop it, or the more sometimes they can even crop it and manipulate it for you to where it will work. For whatever reason, they're very big on seeing your ears, and so sometimes ladies trying to get their passports have to tuck the hair behind the ears. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's in the age of AI we live in. Maybe they're just trying to make sure it's a genuine person. But that passport photo, you don't have to go, get a passport photo. You don't have to go pay at, Walgreens or anywhere like that. You can take that yourself. For those minors who are going on your trip, all right, there, as I mentioned earlier, there are some extra forms. And so this is a different notarized minor consent. This is on the website there under our resources tab. It's permission, it's granting permission for that person, for that minor to obtain a visa. And so this has to be notarized by both parents. If there is a case where there's a minor that maybe only has one biological parent, or doesn't have both parents living in the home, and maybe doesn't have the ability to get that other parent to sign it and get it notarized. There are instances where we can pass that through, or it can get passed through, but there's going to be some extra notation and things that have to happen there. There's what they call an affidavit of support, and basically what this is the Brazilian government just wants to know that when that minor's in the country, you're not leaving them there to be somebody else's problem. When you unfortunately have to think about, child trafficking and all those sorts of things, the affidavit of support is just saying that no, there is a person who is financially responsible for this minor while they're in country. And so, that form can be found on the website. And so you'll have to have that. So before you start to apply for any minor's visa, you want to make sure you have all of these documents ready. Otherwise, you'll have to stop and start, which you can. I mean, these application processes, you can pause it and come back to it a day or two later, but I find that it's much easier to have all these documents collected and ready. And so you will have to have a scan of both parents' IDs. Ideally, they would both have a passport. It will say, the form will ask for their passport. If you have a parent who doesn't have a passport, that's okay. You can use a driver's license. But you need to have those. You'll have to have the minor's birth certificate scanned in and ready to upload. The original there. And so there are some extra hoops, for minors. And so again, especially for minors, trying to acquire a visa, don't delay, don't wait. The sooner the better, because in our experience, certainly in my experience and my team's experiences, inevitably there will be some back and forth, and it may say, we need this document again, we need that document again, and so don't wait to the last minute. Don't miss out. Don't have to cancel your trip because you didn't get your visa.